technical hitches. And I wish to say that the hope and destiny of 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus is like the Berlin Wall. Yesterday it was 38 degrees. It's exactly the same way our hopes and aspirations were risen when Article 370 was abolished in Kashmir about 2.5 years ago. And with the targeted killings in the recent past, say almost about 6-8 months, and the pain and agony has come back again, like the weather of today. So, while the calmness and coolness of the lake outside, Tegal Lake, which resembles our Kashmir Dal Lake, is calm, but at the same time, there is a burning desire in 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus to go back to its motherland. While we are going global, we are here in Germany, our community is scattered all across the world, be it in United States, Europe, down under Australia, New Zealand, and we are doing well in our areas everywhere in the world. Because we always prefer pen rather than a stone. We never in our history have even broken the window pane of a neighbor. Maybe through cricket ball it was damaged, that's a different issue, but we have never damaged even a window pane of a neighbor, and on the contrary, our houses were stoned every time India won the cricket match and every time India lose the cricket match. So this was the tragedy of living as a child in Kashmir. Now coming back to today's topic, we are discussing here the ignored genocides of the world. Well, as I said, as we go global, we need to share our pain with the world and at the same time look at the pain of others who have suffered in the history of this world. Well, the renowned genocides of the world are Holocaust. More than 6 million Jews were killed by Nazis and its collaborators. Then there is Armenian Genocide just before World War I. And yesterday when we were screening the film, The Kashmir Files in Babylon, few Armenians who saw the film, they said exactly the same thing was happening in Armenia in 1989 when the jihadis of Azerbaijan were putting the marks on the houses of the Armenians and for targeted killings and for targeted people to be assassinated in future. So there was Armenian genocide, then there were Tamil genocide, which has also gone under the carpet from the world eye due to certain reasons. Then there was other continuous genocides of minorities like Afghani, Hindu, Sikhs, Shias, Hazaras, that's continuing. Therefore, now we are discussing these hidden genocides and ignored genocides today, and we start with our lady Palviji. So coming back to the Kashmir Files, what has been your experience and what are you able to express to the other parties who have also suffered genocides, including us Kashmiri Hindus? Please.
Thank you, Ajay. My feelings when we were researching for the Kashmir Files is the same that I'm feeling now as I read the topic of today's conversation, ignored genocides of the world. As if genocide is not enough. When you speak about genocide, you were talking about the most inhuman, barbaric act by one community on the other. It's us humans killing our brothers and sisters. And you've seen the definition of the genocide in the documentary which you just saw. Unfortunately, the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus checks all the boxes. For 30 years, nobody knew about it. So, for all of you to have lost your homes, to have lost not just the four walls of your home, but you've lost all your memories along. As one of the people that we spoke to, one of the ladies, Sushma Bhan, she said that everything that her mother had given to her, jewelry is not important monetarily, but it must have been an heirloom jewelry, right? Coming down in generations. On the night of January 19th, when you're fleeing for your life, saving yourself, saving your children, saving the women of the family, saving the older people, the last thing that you think about is carrying your jewelry or your photo albums with you. I've heard stories about young boys and girls who have no memory of their fathers. There is not even a photograph which they can see to remind themselves how their parents or their father looked like. And this is a very, very distressing thought. I can't even imagine how, I have one photograph of my grandfather, my father's father. And I always kept telling my father, कि आप लोगों के वक्त पे photography का इतना वो था नहीं when you were younger, because he was brought up in a village in Madhya Pradesh. कि दादाजी की एक ही तस्वीर है. एक ही मूड में देखते हैं हम उनको. This could be a point of discussion for us. हम खेल में बोलते हैं, but for somebody to not have a single photograph of their father or their mother or the brothers or their uncles who they lost in Kashmir, it is a terrible, thing to live with. As I was talking to everyone, there was a certain, I had reached a certain point where everything started seeming unreal to me. Because a human brain is only capable of processing so much pain. So a point came when I said, this can't have happened. This is all a lie. I think that was my defense, that was my shield which I was using. Because I couldn't take that pain anymore. And the only reason why I sat through it, there were times when I wanted to get out and run away. But the only reason I sat through it was every time I felt that, I also realized that I'm only listening to these stories these people have gone through. And not just gone through it. They've lived with it for 30 years without anybody asking them, what have you gone through? As we say in Hindi, किसी ने आपके पीठ पे हाथ नहीं फहराया और ये नहीं कहा कि मुझे बताओ तुम्हारे साथ हुआ क्या है. And that's why everyone internalized the pain. They stopped talking about it. And somewhere they felt that this is how it is. We don't matter. We were just 2%. It really doesn't matter to the world whether we live or die. You got thrown out of your homes. Wherever you went in India, you were all looked at as refugees or migrants, which is a terrible thing, to happen within your own country. Also, when we were doing our research, the world has this image of refugees. Unfortunately, in your case, Kashmiri Pandits are very good-looking people, and you're very well placed. So you don't really come into the category of refugees. Sorry, इनको क्या problem है? They're doing so well. They are earning so much money. It doesn't matter what your economic standing is in life if your father has been. And as I speak about it, Ajayji is sitting right next to me. He's gone through the pain himself. How does it matter how much money you have if your father is not with you? If somebody in your family is, brutally murdered, I mean, they don't see your economic background for that. During the Second World War, after the Holocaust happened, there have been a series of movies which were made in the US, right from Sound of Music to Boy in Striped Pajamas, or Schindler's List, only with the view of educating the people of this terrible thing that had happened, and to stand together as human beings and say never again. All the Holocaust museums that you see, they are actually to educate people to say never again. And yet, after that, we've seen the Yazidis, we've seen their plight, we've seen the Armenian Christians, we've heard of the Rwandan genocide. And there are so many more within my own country also, which have gone unnoticed, unheard. So how long are we going to keep getting educated? When are we going to say stop, no more? How many more people do have to die at the hands of terrorism before we realize that the true beauty lies in diversity, that all of us should live together. And as India always preaches, that unity truly lies in diversity. And how beautiful it is when people of different faiths, different race, different color, they all come together. I'm feeling so honored, so blessed that you're here with us today discussing this. Amjad Bhai joined us from Mirpur. I have a friend from Mirpur. His last name is Mirpuri. And I had never heard anything from him, what I just heard from him. So people who have been victims and whose voice has not been heard for years and years together, they just bury that pain inside and they just move on in life. But I think a time has come when all of us need to stand together for humanity. Humanism should triumph over everything else. And hence we undertook this tour. I realized that there has been, both Vivek and I, we've changed as people after this film. I realize I've grown extremely emotional. I've become very touchy to other people's pain. I can't see anyone crying. I break down very easily these days. And I've started feeling, how do I say this? I can't really put this in words, but I think I understand the emotions so much better now. And it's a confession I need to make here. Because actors are supposed to be extremely emotional people and we have to have a deep understanding of emotions. And I thought I was, wonderful at my profession, but it was only after Kashmir Files that I realized what true emotions are. All I want to say here is that it has been a long, long battle for justice for this community. I think Kashmir Files is a very small step, but it is a step. It has led to the arrest of a person who was responsible for killing our Air Force officers, who was responsible for killing Justice A.K. Ganju, Justice B.K. Ganju, I'm sorry, and many more people in Kashmir. This is a beginning. And if all of us come together, and if all of us take this message forward, and not just the Kashmir Pandit community, not just the Hindus, not just the persecuted community, but everybody who believes in humanism, everybody who upholds humanity, if all of us come together and we talk about this. It's very, very easy to call people into believing in positive things, but we need to, constantly work at it. We just give up. I know it's a very, very difficult task, but Vivek and I, we've been practicing it for the past 4 years, and we've come this far. I don't know how far we'll be able to go beyond this. We are trying. We're trying with our next film also. We have been at it since 2010, actually, but it has only got amplified after Kashmir Files. But please stand with us, support us, become our voice, spread the message of humanism. And it may be a utopian concept, but we must always work towards utopian concepts to make the world a better place to live in. Let's all work towards the cause of humanism. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. That is the motto and the reason of your visit here to humanity, under which comes humanism first. Thank you, Mr. Virush, for the nice words. And coming back to the topic again, why certain genocides remain ignored by the world? Well, in my opinion, the reason is very simple, that the big powers who set the narrative, the United States, Europeans, or now emerging China, they want to control the regimes and they let the genocides go in their country. Middle East, North Africa. It was Afghanistan, Pakistan also to some extent. Because the big powers want to control the resources. So it ultimately comes to the economy, money power. So we have honored that we have a special guest here, Mr. Nico Bauk. Nico Bauk is a Jew, and Jews have suffered enormously during Hitler regime. Everybody knows it. Well, we Kashmiri Hindus were only 500,000, which was displaced from our roots. And it, of course, falls under the category of ethnic cleansing. Though we were not killed in so much large proportion like Jews, but the basic concept under the UN is that anyone who is uprooted from its ancestral place in a group together falls under the category of genocide. So they were more than 6 million assassinated, brutally killed by the Nazi regime. So we request Mr. Nico to share his opinion about the Holocaust and about other sufferings of Jews even after Holocaust, like northeast, what we call as Sena, southeast and North Africa, where the Jews have been uprooted from 1948 till now by the rogue regimes there. So, Mr. Nico, thank you.
Thank you very much, and very honored to be here. Thank you, AJ, for that invitation. Hello, everyone. Yoshi, honored Mr. Agnihotri. Thank you for. I mean, I was asked. And distinguished guests. And I just, I prepared something, but I did take a close look at the preview of the film, and so just allow me to say something beforehand. First of all, I do admire you being able to live fearless, even though you know there's a fatwa against it. That is something that is not a joke. You need to be a real courageous person to stand up against it each and every single day. And when I saw the movie, it reminded me of a lot of memories of myself I'm a German Israeli, and I serve the Israeli army, and we have been going through a lot of terror in the last 20 years. But there's one thing that really stands out in that movie. When you look at all these people with their terrible fates in part, and what they made out of it. This woman that was selling her last garment in order for her kid to get education. I think that is something that the Kashmiris, the Jews, we have in common. In the end, it goes down to education. And now we're sitting here, and none of us here is a victim anymore. Okay, that is just something I want to point out. When I was asked to speak about the Holocaust, it's a huge subject. And, people asked where to start. You know, you start in 1933 when Hitler raised to power and started slowly stripping off the Jews of their rights. You know, same year, Jews that would work in government positions would be stripped of their positions. In 1935, I don't know who knows that. Hitler came up with the racial laws of Nuremberg, which actually defined us as non-humans. I mean, if you look at me, I hope you do see a human being. That's very important to me. And in that time, it went on. You know, it didn't start with killings. It didn't start with people being displaced. But slowly, people felt less and less welcome. They were excluded from society. They were only allowed to go to their own hospitals, their own schools. In November 1938, there was something called Crystal Night, where Jewish shops and synagogues were torched, looted, people robbed, killed, and injured people. And as everyone knows, it amounted in the beginning of the Second World War, the Germans very, very successfully conquering land quickly, also on the Western Front, but mainly in the Eastern Front. Now what happened is that they conquered the East, Poland was overrun within 3 weeks, and now they had all these Jews there, because 10% of Polish society at that point were Jewish, 3.5 million people. And the Germans, they were asking themselves, what are we going to do with these Jews? So they started to put them into ghettos, to restrict their movements. Food rations were cut, they were not allowed to work. And people basically, they were dying there. They were living, they were zombies. They did not have enough food, and they were dying slowly of starvation, of hopelessness, and everything you can imagine. But it was not quick enough for the Germans. So considering now that we're sitting here in Berlin, which was the center of Nazi power, I don't know how many of you know Wannsee. It's a very famous, nowadays very beautiful place in the city. It was a huge conference there, and they decided on what they called the final solution. The final solution was our death sentence. That's when the Germans started to move their SS forces into the territories that were conquered and started mass shootings, mass killings of people in villages without no warning. No one would distinguish between kids, women, men, elderly. There was nothing that would convince the Germans to stop or to let anyone go. And at that point, I want to tell a personal story. My wife's grandfather, he was not exactly what any mother would consider being a good boy. He was a smuggler. So he was smuggling goods, mainly metal, all kinds of things, between the Polish and what's nowadays the Belarusian border. And he was lucky to not be there when the Germans when the Germans invaded his village. They came in, they took a couple of hours to round everyone up, around 6,000 to 7,000 Jews. They were all executed in mass graves. And when my wife's grandfather came back, all that he could find was his parents shot and his 9 siblings dead. He was the only one surviving from that whole village. The name of the village is Disna, and it's really important to me personally to remember that. And everyone has heard of Auschwitz, okay? And Auschwitz is the symbol for the Holocaust. Over 1 million Jews being killed and burned there, and that's what people see. This picture that they have in their head. Those train tracks leading into this huge camp where there was nothing but destruction. But Auschwitz it really is not the story. I mean, it's just the technicality of how things were done. The Holocaust cannot be understood without understanding the idea of anti-Semitism in Europe at that time, and it's very similar, this feeling to someone was describing to me before that suddenly neighbors, they are rising up, and people that were friends that you would visit, that you would go to their weddings or have your kids play together in the playground, they suddenly reduce you to this one thing that you are, the Hindu, the Pandit, whatever it is, the Jew, and they demonize you. They strip you of anything that is human, and the only thing left of you is this one single trait of yours, nothing else. And then people start not caring about you anymore, not seeing you, and even themselves picking up arms. And it's not something that comes, it happens from one day to another. At least in Europe, we were unfortunate enough to live under the Christian church. And if there's anyone Christian here, I don't want to become personal, but it's just a fact that in the mid-ages, they were spreading those lies that the Jews, they killed Jesus. And when after they killed Jesus, they would also kill Christian kids to use their blood for our traditional bread that we eat during the Pesach Seder, which is when we celebrate our freedom at the time of leaving Egypt and becoming a people. And these things, they have been so deeply ingrained and passed on from generations to generations that this is really the point. The cut has to be made in those ideas. People, they live in a fantasy of madness. And the only way to break this fantasy of madness is when you hear people or you see people, slipping into these old ideologies or just starting to repeat all this propaganda over and over again to make a cut and to speak up. Because if you leave these words, whatever is said there in the room, there's no vacuum. These things, they're being heard. People hear them once, they hear them twice, they hear them 3 times. And after a while, they don't think anymore. It's just something that sinks in. The next time they see you, they call you, an occupier, a terrorist, whatever you want to, whatever the propaganda's need is. And that is why it is so important, even if you're over a meal at lunch and you feel like, I don't want to argue, I'm a peaceful person, I want to let everyone live. When it comes to these things, when there are lies that are dangerous, that are endangering lives, you really want to avoid, you really want to prevent another Holocaust, you want to prevent another genocide in Kashmir, in Armenia, in Kosovo, in Rwanda, wheresoever, you need to be able to speak up. And that is my message.
The message is clear and precise and for the world who believe in peace and non-violence. Thank you, Mr. Nico. And now we request our filmmaker, Mr. Vivekji, to express himself. Vivekji.
Thank you, Ajay, for organizing this very wonderful event, and these 2 days in Berlin have been wonderful, despite Pallavi's illness. We have tried to interact as much as possible. You are a victim of Kashmiri Hindu genocide. I hope the last generation of victims of Kashmiri Hindus, because in the next few minutes I'm going to share with you why he's perhaps the last generation of victims. Thank you, Nico. Wonderful insights into the Holocaust. I have all my empathy, all my uh, sincere apology on behalf of the entire humanity for what has been done to you and your family in the entire Jew community. And I want to also thank you for representing the Jew community wherever we have gone, in USA, in England, here, everywhere. I have found that the Jew community has naturally supported a cause unconditionally. This word unconditionally is very important. And I want to begin from there because a lot of people talk about empathy, standing up, speaking up, supporting you, but they always add a but or if. If you do this for me, then I'll stand up for you. Like in America, politicians speak up for you only if you give them something. But as far as Jews are concerned, they never, not even once, questioned, doubted. They just stood up and they said, even the pain of one person, even the killing of one person is inhuman, and we want to stand up with you. The other day in Scotland, on a Queen's Jubilee holiday, where everything was shut, the director of Jewish synagogue, which is the oldest synagogue in Scotland, and the Holocaust Museum invited us on a holiday and spent 2 hours taking us around everywhere. That video is on internet. I'll send it to you. It's very touching. So very quickly, I want to talk about the ignored, I won't say ignored, but a genocide to which the world made into an unknown genocide. And this is, I feel ashamed to say this, but it is important that I have to say this, that this is the longest continuous genocide of human beings. I don't even want to get into Hindu or Muslim or Jew or Christian. He has very beautifully explained that you are labeled with just one identity, that is your religion, everything else. Kashmir has been a land, like I always say, a land of education. People, for the highest possibility, for very deep, intense research, used to go to Kashmir. People from Greece, from China, from Middle East, from Africa, from all the places have traveled, they have come there. A lot of disciplines actually originated in Kashmir. Grammar, if you don't know the grammar, Sahitya, the word literature, the word Sahitya was coined over there. Philosophy, humanity, spirituality, life sciences, Ayurveda. A lot of beautiful, but music, art, literature. Saraswati is the goddess of Kashmir. Some of the greatest things which help us evolve as better humans. Music, art, literature, all these things. A lot of those things they started over there, they evolved over there. It doesn't matter who invented or discovered them, but it was a seed, it was a principal apex seed of learning to speak Kashmir. This is Kashmir. It is believed that Kashmir is almost 4,000 to 5,000 year old region. There's a absolute consensus on this. Now in 1300, which is 1300 years after Jesus Christ. Some tyrants from the region which is called Iraq now, they came, invaded Kashmir. I won't say they looted them and went back. They did not do that. They stayed back. Because even in those times, people knew that anybody who controls knowledge, controls money, controls commerce, controls business. Now, one of the invaders, one of the first invaders, Araki, in his biography, is being observed by his own son, his own prime minister. It is written, I am paraphrasing it because the quote is not in front of me. It said that we would stop these Kashmiri Pandits. We'll ask them to convert into Islam. And if they refused, we kill them. If they survive, we trample them with our feet. This is year 1300. They were trampled with their feet. First of all, the dignity of Kashmiri Hindus was brought down to this level. How it was made possible? I'll tell you how it was made. When they came with army, with horses, with swords, they issued commandments. And those commandments were that Hindus in Kashmir cannot lock their house. The Muslims, the invaders could lock their houses, but Hindus were not allowed to lock. They were not allowed to keep any kind of arm, sword, knife, anything. They were not allowed to ride horses. So there's a list of these. First, you disarm them, make them weak, and not only that. If you have seen, people who don't know, if you have seen Holocaust, you must have seen outside the houses of Jews, they put a symbol and on the arms of the heroes, the chest, so that they can be identified and therefore othered from a distance. Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same. Kashmiri Hindus, everybody wear faran. Faran is a long. But Kashmiri Hindus had a small pleat or border, I don't know what it's called, at the 3/4 level. So that you can be identified from a distance. Even you didn't know. See, she's a Kashmiri Pandit. Because these things happen, and I was seeing a beautiful film of 60s of the Holocaust. And even when we went to Auschwitz, we were told the same thing. So it corroborates between the film and what the guide told us at Auschwitz. And then I read some literature on Auschwitz that also says the same thing, so must be true. There are a lot of Jews who came in trains. They were promised a better land. They thought they were coming to a better place. And therefore they left everything behind. And they came very happy. And they brought their best jewelry. They were told, you are going to a wonderful place, you will get wonderful jobs and everything. And they came with best of the jewelry, best of the shoes, best of the purses. And therefore, when you go to Auschwitz, everybody to Auschwitz. Yeah. So there are exhibits, like huge exhibits, which are just full of beautiful shoes, wonderful shoes, beautiful purses, jewelry, hair clips, nail cutters, those kind of things, which you will carry only if you're going to one. If they thought this at the end of their life, or if they were sad, they won't carry these things. So when these things happen, they happen so slowly and so subliminally that you don't even realize that. So similarly, the Kashmiri Hindus were identified by the codes, they were othered, and then their first exodus took place. All Kashmiri Hindus had to leave their motherland. But then 6 or 7 families, I don't know how many families the first time or something, they came back. They were determined to come back and assert their own motherland. 6 times, historically recorded without dispute, 6 times, there were 6 exoduses of Kashmiri Hindus. 6 times, suppose you are thrown out. That's why when people say, where are Kashmir? They're scattered. Not in last 32 years. A lot of people ask us that why this film after 32 years? No, this film is not after 32 years. This film is almost 750 years late. But the story has come out so late. But it kept happening in a small region called Kashmir. And since it was Himalayas and big mountains, so it was isolated, the world did not even take much notice. But then, since partition, a fake conflict and problem was created in an independent India about the title holding of the region. Who does this region belong? I, as a layman, with very little bit of understanding of law, with common sense, I understand. If you go to any court in the world about dispute of a land, the first thing any court would say, who's the original title holder? In this case, the original title holders of Kashmir, there is no dispute. There can be a dispute created by some incompetent politician of that time, but this cannot be a disputed land for the people who have been living there since last 5,000 years. And then after partition, with the help of Pakistan, a systematic erosion of Kashmiri cultural footprint was eroded. It was systematically done. And I'll tell you how it was done systematically. Exactly like this. Because it was their land, they lived there for so many generations, so they had huge lands. Then the government of that time, which was primarily run by Islamists, aided by Pakistan's ISI, and they said these are inferior people. If they do not convert into Islam, then they deserve to die or run. And they coined a slogan called Raleigh. But much before that, they took a new land bill came and they took most of the land of Kashmiri Hindus. First, they disarm you, they other you, they take your land, make you economically poor, and after that, all these political lobbies, Islamist political lobbies, started giving shelter to hardcore terrorists trained by USA and Russia in Afghanistan. Then they employed their services. They were paid and some did in the name of religion, jihad, what is called the religious war. And then slowly by 1990, because the maximum exodus took place in 1990, but it started in 1945, 47, and it kept on going on and going on and going on, and even till date. See, 1990 we say, but after 1990, 2003, I've shown in my film, Nandigram happened. कहाँ ये सिख मात्र सिखों का कहाँ हुआ सिखों का नहीं सिखों का संग्राम तो हुआ था 36 Singpura, sorry. In 36 Singpura, not only Hindus, 36 Sikhs, they were killed in a row, and it kept happening all the time, even till a couple of weeks back. when the bank manager was identified as a Hindu and he was killed. A teacher, lady teacher was killed. Almost every 10th or 15th day, somebody is being identified and is being killed. There are hardly any Hindus left. There was one person who has been running the oldest dhaba. Dhaba is a small roadside restaurant, like a motel or food joint. One of the oldest. And I can guarantee so many young kids must have eaten over there. So many, even terrorists must have come and eaten over there. A wonderful person. He was shot only because he was a Hindu. And there is nobody in this world, not even one person. The mightiest people in the world, right from President of America to the Prime Minister of India, not even one person in this world can say that the genocide of Hindus in Kashmir has ended for good. Nobody. While all the genocides happened in a particular time, and after that, it came to the world's notice, they were recognized as genocides. Human rights organizations came to force, and then they ended. All the genocides had an expiry date, but unfortunately, Kashmiri Hindu genocide has no expiry. It's going on and on. Why is it going on and on and on? For the simple reason, because then these people were thrown out of their house, from their homes, they scattered. And that is the biggest advantage of the enemy, of the devil. That Kashmiri Hindus do not live in one geographical region, and therefore they don't have a collective voice. They are not vote banks anywhere. Today in Berlin, if you want to influence policymakers or legislators, you have to have a certain number to influence. It's a very unique situation. And another big problem, which is your biggest strength, is that Kashmiri Hindus are so educated and now so successful and so busy that nobody has time to go into full-time activism. Therefore, the problem of recognizing it as a genocide never came up. This is the first time in history that due to a film, so much awareness has been created. Due to a film, so much awakening of conscience and realizing the human pain that people have started talking about. And this I see as a great hope, great opportunity. And for the first time, it is not just a limited community which is talking about it. Now people all over India are talking about it. People of different ethnicities, nationalities, or faiths. He has come, he is a Jew, just now I was talking. He is a Muslim. Arif Bhai came in London, he is a Muslim. So many blacks and Hispanics and Asians, Koreans, British people. The other day we were invited in UK Parliament, and there were so many members of Parliament on record, on video. They have come and they have recognized it as a genocide, if not legally or politically, but at least in public forum they have recognized as a genocide, which is a good beginning. Second very good thing which has happened is that there is a lot of conversation around. Some happy conversations, some unhappy conversations, some blaming, some accusing. But just to remind you, I don't get discouraged by it. When people say propaganda, where is the other side of the story? Why are you only telling your story? So let me just tell you, I'm sure you know about it, that until around late 70s, the world didn't know much about Holocaust. People knew about the area which was affected by World War, but in far Asia, in India, nobody knew about Holocaust. In America, nobody knew, the younger generation didn't know. Then came a documentary called Holocaust in late 70s. When that documentary came, there was a big debate whether it should be shown in Germany. But by the time Germany was a strong, determined, liberal nation, it allowed the film. You'll be surprised to know that people came out on streets to protest against it. There were so many heated debates, hate speeches. Exactly same, word by word, people said the same thing. This is propaganda. This is American propaganda. This is brainwashing our people. This is putting poison in minds of our people. This never happened. Where is the other side of the story? Why are you telling only their story? But at that time, a lot of people must have felt discouraged, but it was a good thing it happened. There was so much of discussion that today, in any part of the world, wherever you go, people talk about Holocaust and learn from it. They get inspired never to make that mistake again. In fact, all genocides, very loosely, people have started calling them Holocaust. This is the power of art. So this conversation which is going on, a lot of Kashmiri Pandits come to me and they say, why are they saying that? Why are they saying that? I'm saying it's a good thing. Let everybody talk. Let there be so much of talk and discussion and arguments that it becomes so top of mind that even one bullet, the entire humanity gets up. So if this longest continuous genocide of human beings has to stop, believe you me, no government is going to stop. No political or religious leader is going to stop. The only power which can stop it is you and I. We. If we take a stand against any kind of violence in any part of the world, irrespective of region, religion, caste, creed, faith, whatever. If we say no to violence, then only this genocide can end. And without, I always say, and let me repeat it again, until this longest continuous genocide in Kashmir ends, there will be no world peace. World peace, if it has to come, it will come only from one principle, and that is the principle of oneness. And this principle of oneness was understood in Kashmir, what we call in Shaivism. So these are my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivekji, and thank you everybody here for your views, which are really blessing for everybody. Well, coming back to the point where the problem is happening to certain groups, ethnic groups, there is one of the reasons is that it does not form the popular vote bank. That was a situation with us in Kashmir, that our numbers were less and we were scattered. We were settled outside Kashmir at every nook and corner of not only in India but of the world. And this is a continuous battle of fountainhead of Shaivism and spirituality with 7,000 years of history against 700 years. So battle of 700 years versus 7,000 years will continue and we will win it. Thank you, everybody, Mr. Nico, Pallaviji, and Vivekji. We have just, I have been told to please, this was not planned Q&A. Somebody has one or two questions we'll take. Anybody has, please. Yes, please.
Wait a second. You need a mic?
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to ask this question yesterday also, and getting the chance to ask yesterday, and this was the reason I came here today as well. I had a discussion today also that with my friends in India, as you said that we should talk about it, and I was deeply concerned and felt the pain with this movie, and also the lot of anger also. So what happened? As I can also connect with the Jewish community, what happened here in Germany, and I visited also Auschwitz also, and I can feel the same pain. Um, this is not a question actually, it's just a suggestion or advice that you had made a first step of making this film and making this talking going on. But this will eventually stop somewhere because the films are still the films. I see there are a lot of testimonies you have. My only suggestion is that to have this continuous dialogue going on, there should be type of a museum, as Germany has also made a museum here in Potsdamer Platz. Like they say that we regret this, what has happened. So the generations, as you said, this is a continuous suicide which has happened. The purpose is that it has happened in the past. We can't do anything about it. We can only have anger, a pain, this one, but it should not happen in the future. And community has to know this one. Next generation has to know about it. So like me and you, we can make one step forward with the Indian government. And I am not that powerful. Maybe you are because you talk to a lot of people, influential people in India, also with our government. So you can actually propose to them that we should have a museum with all these testimonies there, and it should be free, like in Auschwitz. I can go there, I can see all these things, I can feel the pain, and it should not happen in the future as well. So it was not a question, it was advice or suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I get so much of hope looking at your commitment that since you couldn't ask a question yesterday, so you have traveled all the way here down. So many people have left their work on a weekday and come. I know how difficult it is, especially in Western countries, to leave your work on a weekday and come at 4 o'clock in the evening, and that would drive such a long distance to come near this lake. So I totally appreciate it. It gives me a lot of confidence. As far as the museum is concerned, when I met the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Ji Chauhan, so at the spur of the moment, I told him that why don't you give some land and we can build a genocide museum. Actually, it will be a museum of humanity. Okay, and to tell people what happens when humanity is not there, genocides, Holocaust, massacres. So we are working on it. It's because the land and all those things have to come from the government, it's going to take some time. But I will wait till a certain date. I have it in my mind, exact date. And by that date, if nothing happens, then I'll drop them, I'll write them a letter. You keep your land, you are incompetent to deal with these kind of things, and we will take the matter in our own hands. And then I'll appeal to the entire world to help us and contribute with their expertise, and we will build it. I'm committed to it. I'll try my best. I'm not saying that, yes, I will do it. I'm not a moneyed person. Despite everybody's understanding, we are always running short of resources. So that is one thing. Second thing is, as we been saying, that yes, there will come a time when the curve will go into diminishing returns. But why are we running from door to door? This is the reason I go, even if there are 5 people there to listen to us. Even yesterday, after the screening, there was this young German boy and I think Iranian boy, these 2 boys. They had some doubt. I took them in a separate room. I spent half an hour with them. There was no need. I could have just walked away, taking selfies and have great dinner somewhere. And, but we are doing, I don't want to talk about these things, Pallavi and we are doing so much you cannot imagine. How much, forget everything else, so much physical effort we are putting into it. Because I personally, ऐसे कहते हैं भूत चढ़ गया दिमाग पे, ऐसे मेरे को भूत चढ़ गया दिमाग पे, और मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा है this is such a golden opportunity in the history of India independence. Because in my mind, in my mind, it's not a Kashmir problem. First, it's a humanities. Number 1, it's everybody. It's a shame on the entire collective consciousness of the humanity that they are not even aware of this. Second thing is, it was Kashmir 32 years. But in 32 years ago, demon slowly spreads its tentacles. We don't even realize that. I was in Kerala recently, and I was there for 3 mornings, and all 3 mornings when I opened newspaper, it was news of killing of some Hindus here and there. Only because they were Hindu. See, if there is a fight, riot, something, I understand, but they were killed because I am targeted killings. I am observing Bengal very closely. The entire India-Bangladesh border, it's happening openly. So openly that if you go and visit that place for a week, it's possible that few killings and hangings of people you can see with their own eyes. Just to give you an example. In Bengal, there was this young person who was a dog lover. He loved dogs very much. So he would pick up any stray dogs and bring them. One day, immediately after the election, he wrote on his Facebook that to torture me, they are killing my dogs. Please help. Somebody please help. Nobody went for his help. After some time, the news came they even killed him. They killed his dogs in front of him. He cried for help, and next day he was also. Now this is one stray incident. You'll say, "Ho jata hai," one stray incident. But in Kashmir also, it started with stray incidents. Here in Holocaust, started with one incident, then second, then third, and slowly it becomes a mass movement because people who are getting killed, that community is getting scared, and the community which is killing them suddenly feels empowered, so they come out and open and start. So thanks for your advice. We are trying our best. We hope we can inspire even 10% of the people who come to listen to us. I think we will win this battle. Thank you.
Vivekji and Pallaviji, I don't know how to ask my question because there is something I'm not able to understand. And that thing is that why are we not able to solve this problem for so many years? Now, in 2010, we again tried to go there with the PM package employees and some of the Hindu families, young people who had no jobs, they went there. And what happened again after 10, 12 years, they started killing them and now they again migrate. So this is one more mass migration, So they are not allowing us to go to our own homeland, they're not. They are scaring us and we get scared and we leave. How many times they will do this? And why we are not able to solve this problem? What is the problem? I don't understand. So every Kashmiri Hindu right now is thinking they don't want to go back. Our parents are telling us we don't know how to go back because we don't want to kill. Now the situation in Kashmir right now is the same. They have some problems. They want to get rehabilitated, but they have lost all the hopes. I hope something positive will come out of it, what we are doing. But really, it's a big question mark for all of us. What should we do? I have no clue. I mean, I don't know. So it's not a question. It's just we all are thinking the same thing. What will happen to it? But you people are putting a lot of efforts. Thanks a lot. We are with you, and everyone is with, I think, you. And we hope we have an answer to this question someday. Thank you.
One question for Nico. So first of all, I'm not from Kashmir, I'm from Mumbai, but then to sincere gratitude and congratulations to the work you're doing. It's a really great initiative. And the thing is, I'm a student here. I'm pursuing my masters, but at the same time, I on weekends I work here as a tour guide. So whenever I go to some places of Berlin, so my question is to Mr. Nico. So whenever I go to Holocaust Memorial, so I get mixed reviews that many of people are not satisfied with the memorial they have done. They have spent 25 million euros. There are 2,711 blocks, but and it is done by the US architect. But so many of people think that it is not what they wanted. Many of Jews who visit the tourists who I take to, so they think that it is not what we wanted. They have spent billions, but what do you think about it? Because as you are Jewish and you are working in this area, so what do you personally think about this Holocaust memorial or the museum that we are talking about? Yeah.
A very good question, thank you. That is something that even within the Jewish community is very controversial. I mean, there's one thing that actually speaks for the memorial, which is its location. I mean, Germany is admitting to the crimes that it committed and is putting this memorial basically into the center of power where everyone can see. It's a huge memorial, and that is already a big step. Now, you know, what it looks like and those blocks that it is made out of, I mean, in the end, it's art. You know, it's a decision of, you know, how do you judge it? How do you judge that? I think, you know, it would have been nice to approach not only German Jewish communities, but maybe international organizations to see what, you know, how Jews would view that memorial and what they want to see in it. Because in the end, if I understand it correctly, the architecture was actually made by someone who's not Jewish himself. So it's very hard for him to understand what our needs are. And I do think, you know, it has a strong value. And going a little bit beyond your question, I do actually have a little anecdote to that memorial. Because if you're a tour guide, you probably see that there are a lot of people coming in. They're taking funny pictures. You know, they're lying down on those blocks, and you know, even whatever, showing off private parts of their body and taking pictures and putting them on their Facebook, Instagram, you name it. And there has actually been a Jewish project to look at pages that are publicly available, take those pictures of people, put them on a website, and then contact them on Facebook and say, you know what, if you take those pictures, please write an email to the following email, please andushmi@andushmi.com, then we'll take it off our website. And I think that goes together, you know, with this awareness building. Where it is going in the end, a bit controversial if that is really what the Jews wanted or not. It's maybe not even a question to be asked. Because in the end, there were 6 million people killed out of a population. I mean, which compared to India actually sounds ridiculous. 18 million Jews all over the world, not even 0.2% of the world population. 6 million of them have been killed. To this day, we haven't recovered our numbers, not even by a bit. Now it's around 14 million.
One more?
No, 14 million. So if you just look at it, before the war, we were 18 million small people, and we're not even close to getting back to that. So you know, I think it is probably something that is controversial, but it's a good thing, you know, as long as it's controversial, people talk about it, and it is on their minds, and therefore I think they should leave it as it is for now.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I request Ruchika, come please here, and we will close the session with the felicitation again.
प्रोजेक्टर बंद करो, प्रोजेक्टर पूरा योर रेडी रेडी
Now you can come give one each. And should be आपके आ जाइए.
wait
Open up your hands,
Sir, look.
silk shawl from Kashmir. One each. Berlin souvenir. You can give one.
I think all of us can hold it and take.
मुझे 1 मिनट स्पेस चाहिए हाँ
हाँ?
मैं जाऊँ
नहीं अभी नहीं
ये जब चले जाओ उससे पहले मुझे 2 मिनट दे दो
अब मैं दे दूंगा जाने के लिए राजू भाई पीछे राजू भाई वीडियो है ऑलरेडी छोड़ दो है ऑलरेडी है इधर है ना वो छोड़ दो
नहीं मुझे पता नहीं.
अरे है ना अंदर फ्रेम में घुस के खराब कर रहे हैं इसको भी ओके सॉरी या
Nice gathering.
थोड़ा पीछे
People are
okay
enriched by
wait
the knowledge and information.
wait for 360 video
Yeah, just
I think everybody can come, we can take